if I'm actually going to commit being in line with what I want to do, which is make, house, techno, whatever you want to call it, hard house, I need to go through like a mental shift and almost like, this is going to sound dramatic. I don't mean it to mean dramatic, but kill old self and step into new self, basically.
That's Ocean, producer, DJ, and content creator with over 500,000 YouTube subscribers. He's worked with some of the biggest names in UK rap, including a credit on one of the most played Young Ads tracks in recent years, before making a decision most people in the industry would call insane.
I was making very, very good money back then. That whole machine was working. And now I'm coming with my hammer and I'm like, I'm about to smash this to pieces.
In this episode, Ocean walks through how he built a career in drill and trap, why he decided to burn it all down at 27, and what it actually took to rebuild as a house and techno artist from scratch.
A lot of my self-worth was wrapped up in the views. If a video did terrible, it would break my heart.
He also opens up about the side of the artist's journey most people won't talk about, the fear of starting over, the pressure to appease everyone, and why most artists sabotage themselves before they even begin.
If you think, okay, to make TikToks, I need to do a TikTok dance, and you don't want to do the TikTok dance, but you do the TikTok dance anyway because you think that's what's going to get you views, you're going to come out of it with the wrong energy and it's just going to show on camera.
Towards the end, Ocean shares something I think every artist, founder, and creator needs to hear.
Having the confidence to just be unshakable and stand still and know like, okay, maybe today it's not working, but tomorrow it could work.
If you're at crossroads in your career, whether you're starting over, switching genres, or questioning if you've even got what it takes, this conversation is for you. What do people need to understand about like your past to understand where you are today?
Okay, we can go way, way back then. We can go back to the MMA days. So I guess my journey kind of starts when I leave home at 19. And the first place, London, yeah, born and raised in London. I left London, honestly, just to try and figure out how to make money online. That was my whole goal. I just wanted to be able to travel, make money online. This is even before the music started, before I even knew I wanted to do music. And let's just say after a couple of months, I kind of figured out, okay, if I do these things, I can make a little bit of change online. And during this time, yeah, this is where I got into MMA. And I moved to Phuket the end of 2015. And I was just training like 2 times a day minimum, sometimes 3 times a day, 6 days a week, 5 days a week. And my goal was to just become an MMA fighter. But honestly, I realized very, very early on, this was not going to be a thing for me. Because as much as I loved it, it was tough, man. It felt like a grind. It felt like if this is resistance, I'm pushing against the resistance. It never felt like a flow. And during this time, because in between the training sessions, you have a lot of time to just kind of rest. Well, back then you had a lot of time to just rest, recover, and wait until the next session. That's all I was doing, basically. So in between that time, I kind of started getting back into music. I had made music in the past, but I never took it seriously. But I was listening to a ton of music in my room. And then I just decided I'm going to download Logic and see if I can make something. So pulled up Logic, pirated it, made a first track, and I was like, realistically, I literally thought about it logically. Realistically, can I do MMA for the next 10 years and be happy with nothing? I was like, nah, but could I do 10 years in music and be cool with that journey? And I was just like, yeah, I could do 3 hours every single day for the next 10 years, and whatever happens, I'm cool with it, because I actually really enjoy this. And that's when I just went straight into the music and went head first, really.
And yeah, this is around like 2017, innit, right?
Yeah, so I the first 2 years, so January 2016 is when I decided I'm doing 3 hours every single day. So I did that for 2016. Then 2017 came around and it's like, okay, I've got these beats now. I kind of understand the basics. What am I actually going to do? And that's when I saw producers starting to upload content on YouTube and it really taken off. So there was guys like a guy called Pat Ryan, guy called Sharp, Aries, Ramsoy. These were like really early music producer content creators, and I saw them popping off. Like, I'm talking 1 million views in 2016, 2017, and that's a lot of views back then. That's not and they were just doing it like Pat Ryan, for example. He was literally just in his grandma's room. You know, no fancy speakers, no equipment, nothing. He's just vibing, musical typing, making bangers. And
And
I
is your
thought,
idea
yeah,
like, all right, I want to be a big YouTuber, like this will pay,
nah.
this is going to be, nah?
It was literally at that moment. There's something happening here, and I want to start making YouTube videos to just promote myself, just to have a way to showcase my music, because I've got beats, but I don't have the connections, I don't have the network, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me just put myself out there and see what happens, and that's literally just what happened.
And what kind of music is this? So this is more like rap, sort of drill kind of
Yeah, so
beat.
this, if we're thinking 2017, 2018, so this is like trap, when trap is at its peak. Migos are going off. SoundCloud rap is popping. You got guys like XXX Tentacion, Trippie Redd, all these kind of type beats. That's the kind of vibe I was on back then. And also, it was like the early days of drill. Drill was just starting to become very popular in the UK. So, yeah, I was dabbling my feet in there too.
Gotcha. And then like if I checked out your YouTube channel, like you were active, bro. Like 2 years, you're closing in on like I think it was like 200 videos or something that I saw, and you're at like 40,000 subscribers.
Mm,
And there's this story that you spoke about, I think, in one video where you were kind of like not being able to push further than these 40,000. And there was
yeah,
this one video which you didn't even want to upload, which kind of changed the game a little bit. Do you want to jump into that? What that video
sure,
was?
man.
And
You done your research today.
What would it take to convince you that spending money to market your music could actually make a difference? Like, real difference. That the fans you're gaining are intentional, targeted, and actually care about your music. How many monthly listeners would you need to see to believe it actually works? 10,000? 30,000? A million? Well, we're a group of artists who've built millions of monthly listeners using a very specific and repeatable strategy. It worked so well that record labels and marketing agencies started asking us how we were doing it. So we turned that strategy into an ebook, sold tens of thousands of copies, built an agency around it, and after helping thousands of artists grow on Spotify, we finally did the obvious thing. We turned it into a software. And that software is called Intelligent. It's a system we wish existed when we were trying to grow our own music. You see, music marketing, it doesn't have to suck. And this is how we do it now. If you want to learn more, check the link in our description.
But yeah, I would say this is around mid 2019, and I'm grinding. I'm putting 2-3 videos out a week, and like you said, man, I was hitting that point where I'm getting the views, but like not really. Like it's not really growing. It's just steady, steady, steady. And I think I just said to my brother, like, let's just make a video, see what happens. I didn't really feel like the energy was right because I felt like I was pushing him. I
you
was
look
like, bro,
different
let's
back
do
then as
this.
well, which is like,
Yeah,
I want to
100%, man.
put an image. You had like dreads and everything.
I had my dreads, I had my big beard. This is the
Yeah,
time where I
yeah.
refused to cut my hair. I just wanted it to grow big and crazy. But yeah, man, I told my brother, like, yeah, let's make a video. I want you to make a beat, because actually, to be honest, as much as I was doing music with YouTube, he was a big factor as why I was doing it, because he used to watch a lot of the Internet Money guys and Nick Mira and people like that. And he was always telling me, like, yeah, you should do it. You should sell your beats online. So I thought, yeah, let's make a video. You know how to make beats. I didn't feel like the energy was right. Like I was saying, I feel like I was pushing him too much. Like he didn't really want to do it. And I'm editing this video and I'm like, I don't know about this one. I'm not too sure. But then he was like, nah, you made me film this video. You're going to put it out. And I was like, fair enough. So I dropped the video. The first 2 weeks, I think it hit about 20k views, which at the time was good for me. But then a month later, like it completely took off. It went up into 1 million views and people was really loving that video. And that literally took my channel from 40,000 subscribers to 100,000 subscribers within like a period of less than 6 months. Because back then, subscribers, that was the everything. And if you had a video that popped off and got 1 million, you'd get a lot of subscribers. Nowadays, it's not even that important, but that was a huge turning point in terms of YouTube for me.
What I find fascinating about the period is that, like the channel gets bigger. We're talking 2019, 2020. And then there's another story, which is that a friend pulls you to the side and he says, like, mate, like music is now your hobby and you're actually now like a content creator.
Hmm.
And that kind of like, if I'm tracing like back the story, that must have evoked something in you. Is that correct?
I'd say so because I never came into YouTube thinking that I was going to be a content creator. Because even back then, it was a thing, but not really. Not like today, where people can just become a content creator and that's it. It was still very new, and my whole goal from the beginning was to just document my journey. I came up from watching Wiz Khalifa day-to-day vlogs, or I don't know if you remember the rapper Logic. Yeah, man. From you can go to even to this day, you can go back to his oldest videos from 2007 and watch his entire story. So that was always what I wanted to do, but as YouTube was progressing, it was definitely becoming more of like, instead of just me making a beat, it was okay, let's do a challenge, let's do a tutorial, let's do these other type of different contents that made you a content creator. So yeah, it kind of shifted my mentality in that time period where I low-key stopped focusing on music production per se, but was more focusing on entertainment in the videos.
Yeah. And after that, like, and this is just in my research, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Hmm.
it's sort of like around 2023, you're starting to make a more conscious decision to maybe put YouTube aside a little bit and
Yeah,
properly like chase placements, sessions, sending
yeah.
beats out, cold DMs. And out of that whole year, one of my, honestly, I'm not just saying this, when I read this, like, press the button, I was banging that tune when it came out, like, mad.
Oh,
And
nice.
like, to hear that you were behind there is like crazy. So, you know, to
Hmm.
anyone who doesn't know, Young Ads, like, he's a big name in the UK, guys. D Block Europe, it's like a big thing, hundreds of millions of streams. Take me through that, like how that credit actually happened.
Yeah, so this was actually made in 2020. So during lockdown, during the
Oh, really?
pandemic, yeah, I decided
Is that
to,
Dreads time? Is that
yeah,
after Dreads
that's big
time?
hair dreads time.
Let's go.
I decided to learn how to play the guitar. We all had time on our hands, and I thought, yeah, you know what? I love guitar trap beats. I want to really learn how to play the guitar and just play guitar on my own tracks. And so I bought a guitar, and this was one of the first samples I made. I think I even said in some content recently, like I couldn't even play the guitar properly. I had to record each part one chord at a time, like strum bang, and glue it together in Logic. And it wasn't even in key. The If you actually listen to the melody, it's not in key. But yeah, I'd send my samples out every single week, like clockwork. Sent it to Nats London, who's the co-producer on that track, and I want to say maybe 2 months later, he sent me the video of Young Ads freestyling or playing it back on one of his live streams, freestyling to it. And so I was thinking, it's gonna come out on the blue. I think it was the Blueprint album at the end of 2020. I'm thinking it's gonna come out then. Didn't come out on that album, so I was like, damn, I missed one, and I completely forgot about it. Didn't even think about it. And then one message out the blue, maybe 2 3 years later, Young Ads is dropping the song tomorrow. No, no, like, no contracts, no nothing. It's literally he's dropping the song tomorrow. Um, look out for it. Basically, that's how it just came about. So I was super
And
happy to get
how
that done.
do how do the like the if you are able to talk about it, like the finances work on something like that? Like, so you send this out. Are
Hmm.
you, if it's gonna be sent out like 3 years later, are you like trying to figure out something like afterwards, or how does that whole process work?
So usually, what's meant to happen is they know the song's gonna come out, so they'll reach out to you and be like, let's get the contract signed. Maybe they'll give you an advance. It's all negotiable on the back end, but typically you might get an advance of a few thousand up front, depending on what you negotiate. And then you also get percentage on the back end. And
Or did you
then,
did you get to a good deal?
honestly, no. But it is what it is, I'll chalk it up to that bad mismanagement on the back end. Not because of another manager or anything like that. It was just how the situation played out. But yeah, no, I didn't.
Have you been like after that? I mean, I know that you sort of pivoted, and we'll get into that whole thing, but
Hmm.
yeah, that was a banger. Like, did that open up any more doors or opportunities in that sort of like scene?
Somewhat, yeah. I'll say somewhat. I think it's hard to say because it would also be a combination of me getting that placement, but then also my personal brand that I was able to build on YouTube, that got me a lot of opportunities in, for example, 2023, when I did decide to just go deep into getting placements and working with artists. That's what helped.
Yeah. And at some point then there's another development, which is sort of like, you're like, well, F this, I'm going to focus on me. And you're going to stop chasing those placements and you're just going to be doing your thing. So you've
Yeah.
gone like, started YouTube, then started making music, then gone MMA, then said stuff MMA, let's go do YouTube, then focusing on your music at the same time, then focusing more on your music, trying to do it in form of placements. And now 2023, you're like, actually, let me do my thing. Let me really focus on my own stuff. So is that like a moment, like how old are you then when you're in 2023? And why do you think that sort of
2023,
happened?
I think I was 27, turning
Okay.
28. So this is where I'd like to say I have my midlife crisis. You hear the 27 club where like things start to go wrong for people, and usually people overdose or whatever. But
Right.
honestly, yeah, I had a lot of experiences during that year, which was honestly transformative. But to be honest with you, I was telling people from before I even know what it looked like that I wanted to DJ, but I had no idea how to pull that off. I didn't really understand that you could make dance tracks and you can put them out and other people can play them and you can play shows. I was just telling my friends like, yeah, that DJing stuff, it looks cool. I need to do that. I'm going to do that. But didn't really understand it. And it's not until
Train station.
around it, before we even get to that, until
Oh,
that
there's a
time
tour.
period.
Right.
Yeah, around that time period, I started going out a bit more.
What
Because you
getting
know
into
what?
that sound?
Yeah, because I got to be honest with you. When
Here's a reality most artists never get told. 60 to 80% of your Spotify streams don't come from playlists you pitch to or posts you make. They come from Spotify's algorithm, things like Discover Weekly, radio, Release Radar, mixes, all of that. So the real question isn't how do I get on playlists? It's how do I get Spotify to push my music? And the answer is something called popularity score. You see, Spotify assigns every track and artist a hidden score based on how well it performs compared to others. And that score determines how much algorithmic exposure you will get. And we spent years digging into artist data, analyzing over 1,000 careers, and we found that the biggest driver of that score is velocity. Essentially, how many real people listen to your track in a short period of time. And our software, Intelligent, exists to solve exactly that problem. It's a tool we built as artists to consistently drive real listeners to new releases, spike that early momentum, and trigger algorithmic growth. That's a game. We just made it playable. If it sounds interesting, check it out with the link in our bio.
I was younger and I used to go to techno clubs and stuff like that with my friends, I used to be like, nah, this isn't it. Like, it feels like the same song is playing over and over again. But I don't know what it was. I was just more receptive to it as I got older and I started going out, that I really started to experience it in a different way, and it started to hit me in a different way too. I was like,
So where were you going? Was this in London, like Fabric, or where?
so during that year, I traveled quite a bit. I went to Argentina, Brazil. I done like a South America trip basically,
Nice.
and
Yeah, that's good. Good stuff happening there.
I was really outside. I
Yeah.
like outside. Going to, I can't even tell you the name of the club. It was just some random warehouse
Right.
that I just met a guy, and he's like, yeah, there's a red party. Pull up on this time at this warehouse, and I go there, and it's just this thing that I've never seen or been to before. But
You're like
I'm
27.
like,
Fuck it. May as well at
I'm
this
just
point.
like, this is insane, man. I don't know what this is, but this is insane. Like, the energy is crazy, and
Yeah.
so that kind of kicked off my feeling of wanting to DJ. So when I got back home, I actually got a tutor to teach me how to DJ, just like the technical stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I started dabbling in house a little bit, but then yeah, that's when, during that time period now, is when I met Tom, who was a promoter, or he is a promoter. He runs a festival called Into the Woods every year in the UK. And just by chance, I meet him at the train station. He says, yeah, I watch all your YouTube videos, but I don't make trap. And I'm like, oh, what do you make? I'm more into the house stuff. I got a festival. And I don't know why I said it, but I was just like, can I DJ? Just out of impulse, like, can I DJ your festival? And he's like, yeah, let's talk about it. I'll send you a DM. And we got to talking. And he offered me a slot out of nowhere. Just like, yeah, you can come play. It's in summertime. But this is also during the period of where I haven't fully transitioned yet. I'm still in the studio every week making tracks with drill artists and trap artists. But then it was time for the festival. Let's say the festival's July 2023. July 31st, 2023, I think is the festival. July 1st, I was like, okay, no more sessions for this month. I need to learn how to make house music. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to actually play my own music. So I locked in.
So you like listen to that live sets, or like what's your process there like?
So during this time, it was mainly just, I would say, between deep house and tech house, because I didn't really know necessarily what lane I want to fit into yet. This is very much surface level. Just whatever's being pulled off on Spotify and sounds vibey, I'm kind of listening to it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I just bang out a couple of tracks that month that I think are sick. I rock up to the festival. I played it. It went okay-ish. I think I underestimated it. But ever since that moment...
How were you nervous?
Was I nervous? I wasn't nervous until I stepped on stage. Up until that point, I was extremely like, yeah, it's going to be fine. Then I got on stage and then I saw the crowd. 1 hour. I saw the crowd. I got on the stage and I saw the crowd go. And that's when I started getting nervous.
Yeah. Into the Woods, I think I know. It's a big one, isn't it? Like, is that where where is it? Is it north or where is it?
I think now they actually do it in Wales, but it used to be a bit more up north towards Gloucestershire. But every year it's getting bigger and bigger. The lineup last year was...
It's one of those big ones, right? Like Rossi was there just last one, right? Or am I mixing this one up?
Who did you say, sorry?
Rossi.
Yeah, he's done it. I think the year that I did it, I want to say Josh Baker, Ben Rao did it. So yeah, every year it's definitely growing. It's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. I want to talk more about like that, what you just mentioned towards the end. Like, how did you navigate that process of, right, you've just gone off the stage. You said it went all right now, but it must have done something in you. You've already made that sort of decision priorly, like, all right, this is what I want to do. How are you thinking about going about this? Like, you've got this audience that are there for a specific reason, for a specific sound, right? How are you thinking about that transition? And now, knowing what you know now, did you think you were like over sweating it, or like, if you could go back in time and tell yourself something, like, talk me through that.
So at the time, if I'm honest with you, I knew I wanted to do it, but I wasn't necessarily ready to make that jump because I knew it was going to have to come with a lot of sacrifice. And if I'm honest with you, back then, a lot of my self-worth was wrapped up in the views. If a video did terrible, it would break my heart. And if a video did amazing, I would feel over the moon. I'd feel confident. I'd feel great. And so I knew that if I was to just switch instantly, I wasn't able to necessarily handle that. So it took me a long time to kind of get rid of this mindset and actually realize, like, okay, if I'm actually going to commit being in line with what I want to do, which is make, house, techno, whatever you want to call it, hard house, I need to go through like a mental shift and almost like, this is going to sound dramatic. I don't mean it to be dramatic, but kill old self and step into new self, basically. And so it took me a long time to get to that point. At least, well, actually, looking back, maybe it's not so long. It was about 6-7 months. But it felt like a very long time because I continued to do these sessions. I continued to work with rappers. But the more that I kept on doing it, honestly, the unhappier I was becoming, the more grumpy I was becoming, the more... It's
kind of like you're in a relationship. You don't want to be in that relationship, but you're kind of like stagnating that sort of breakup. And that's kind of what it sounds like to me from the outside.
100%.
And when you talk about sacrifices, like, obviously, right, like viewership, audience, but what were the other things? Is that like opportunities? Because like, usually when you want to stop something, that's when just amazing thing happens. It's always like the thing. There's this interesting podcast once that Matthew McConaughey did, which was when he was stopping trying to become like that rom-com actor, and actually sort of put himself in the world of sort of being that serious actor. They were throwing him 50 mil,
Yeah.
40 mil, and he was like, damn, do I really want to stop? Like, did something along those lines, was that happening to you as well?
Quite the opposite. I wish people were throwing me offers of 50 million and stuff like that, but no, it was more, I knew that the opportunities was going to close up because, and even if we're being real, the brand deals, the money and stuff like that, because everything was tied into that machine. And honestly, man, like I felt like I had worked so hard to get to that point, and I was finally making that happen. Like I was finally working with the bigger artists and stuff like that. To kind of go back to square one, it's not, it kind of feels counterproductive in some ways, and also, I had management, I had people working for me and stuff like that. To kind of just do a 360 on them, it's tough, man. It's very tough.
And
So
are
I
you
knew
open to like finances? Like, how much are you making of these brand deals? Just to understand like where you're at. We don't have to jump into it if you're uncomfortable talking about it, but
it was a lot, man. It was big money. It was big money. I was making very, very good money back then. Also just selling my sample packs because I was making drill kits, trap kits, and I was getting great views. So I was making good money off the AdSense. That whole machine was working, and now I'm coming with my hammer and I'm like, I'm about to smash this to pieces, and it looks crazy. You know what I mean? People around me are like, oh, what are you doing? But I knew internally, I knew with my instinct and gut, like I needed to move in alignment. And that's honestly kind of what led me from that moment to go into the direction that I'm at.
and where you are at now, like, do you look back and you're like, thank God I did that. Like, I feel great. Like, how are you feeling about like that whole movement?
100%, man. I think what's meant for you is what's meant for you. And how could I have ever have how can I say this? How can I have ever have chosen to do this? It just happened, you know what I mean? These life experiences just led me down this path to where I am now, and I'm grateful for all those moments and all those lessons that I had to learn back then. And yeah, I'm so excited about the music that I'm making today, what I've got
Yeah.
coming as well, and the whole journey that it's been on, really.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, we'll get into that most definitely. I want to zoom out like for a second because
Yeah.
I've been speaking to a lot of people recently in the music industry, watching a lot of podcasts, and I want your read on it. You know, as someone who sits across or has sat across like all three worlds as a producer, content creator, DJ now. There's this guy Joe Budden. He recently said something, which is that the music industry is now kind of just like a tech and a data company. Spotify, TikTok, the algorithms, and music itself is basically just the trick they use to get you in the door. And the people winning aren't those who are making the best music; they're the ones who understand that data game. And if you're just thinking about like singles and videos and what's on the front end, his word is like the boat has already kind of passed you. And when you hear that, does that evoke anything? Does that make you agree, disagree? Your kind of view on the current state of how things are?
Yeah, to some extent, I would agree with that. But I also think that to be a music artist, it's never just always about 100% the music. It very rarely is. It's like a combination of all these different skills that kind of make up a music artist. Of course, you have to be good at the music, but then what's your brand? How do you look? How do you make people feel? How do you communicate with your people? Timing of things as well can come into play to make something go. But it's very rare that it's just the music. There's very, very few people that can pull that off. The only person that I can think of off the top of my head right now is like a Frank Ocean, who's super mysterious and he just makes the music. I think we can all say because the music is so great that someone like him can pull it off. But for most people, you have to be a combination of everything that kind of puts you, I guess, the job title of a music artist.
100%.
It's not just one thing.
It's just part of the game. You just have to be able to play that game. It's really interesting. I said this on the last podcast I did with a guy called Henry Fong. He's also like a DJ and based out of America. Lovely guy. And he said the same thing. It's nowadays that's just part of parcel. And especially if you're looking at the label where they would typically, or how it historically used to be, right, where they'd say, we're going to find talent, we're going to mold that talent for 2 years, and then hopefully they're going to blow up. But nowadays it really doesn't work that way anymore. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, let's see what you can get by yourself, and then let's put rocket fuel below what you've already achieved. So you're starting off with like, sure, it is much easier to create music. Sure, it is much easier to reach an audience. At the same time, it has never been harder because there's never been more exposure. There's never been more supply, and demand is kind of meet that supply that is constantly coming out. That is sort of like the difficulty. You touched on an interesting point in terms of like brands. I want to know, because you went through this kind of radical, quote unquote, brand change. So I'm assuming you gave it some thought. What is Ocean's brand? What does it stand for? How do you think about your brand? How do you think about telling that story?
Be honest, you're tired. You're making music, filming content, posting every day, and watching your numbers bounce between 10 views and 500 with no idea why. And that's not a strategy. That's roulette. You see, the artists that are growing, they aren't chasing viral moments. They're running controlled, targeted ad campaigns that push their music to the right people at the right time. And Intelligent makes that super simple. You set it up once, let the system run, and thereby you can make music again instead of refreshing analytics all day, every day. Stop hoping and start controlling your growth. Check it out with the link in our bio.
Yeah. I think that's a good question, to be honest with you. And it's something that is honestly evolving a lot. But I would say at the core of it is, bro, I just do what I want, man. I don't care.
Yeah.
I've gone past the point of like, I don't get. Can I swear? I was gonna swear.
Of course you can. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't give a fuck. I kind of just make what I want to make. I do what I want to do. I live life on my own terms, and hopefully that inspires people to just do their own thing. It's okay to just do your own thing. Like, people might not understand it. It is what it is. And also just the spirit of actually getting to it and doing it. Like, I'm not saying this to brag or anything, but I do everything independently at the moment. So I'm literally, I'm making the music, I'm releasing the music, I'm my own manager, promoter, whatever you want to call it. I'm doing it all. And hopefully with my story, with my journey, I want to inspire people to get to it, man.
And so I totally respect all of that. But because I know who my viewers are, not many, but I know who they are, can you go maybe a bit more tangible, like practical, like when you say you trust your gut, but like, all right, like, are you looking at releasing every 4 to 6 weeks or not? And when you have a release coming out, like, what are you doing with your content? Are you trying to fill content like every day, or are you only doing it once a release comes out? What is that content? Some artists will say the only content that interests people is content that will make them want to buy a ticket. So things related to shows, rather than maybe sort of like song breakdowns or being in the studio or day in the life kind of content. Do you have a little bit of a game plan? If you have a game plan, what does that look like?
So in terms of the music release strategy, at the moment, I'm probably moving at a cadence of 1 a month on major streaming platforms. So Spotify, Apple, and then on SoundCloud, I upload as well. An edit maybe monthly, so there'll be two tracks on SoundCloud, 1 track on the DSPs. And in terms of my strategy, I mean, I do create content, but I'm not really even thinking that deeply about what it is that I'm trying to promote my music. Of course, I am doing the studio video of like, I just made this, but I do love making content in general, so I don't mind doing a day in the life of just showing the behind the scenes and things like that. And I think for everyone, I don't think there's necessarily a right and a wrong way, but I think there's a way that you need to find your way of showing yourself online so you can enjoy it. And when you enjoy it and you show that energy, people will enjoy it too. Because if if you think, okay, to make TikToks, I need to do a TikTok dance, and you don't want to do the TikTok dance, but you do the TikTok dance anyway because you think that's what's going to get you views, you're going to come out of it with the wrong energy, and it's just going to show on camera. You're not going to even attract the people that you want to attract. And the buzzword these days is authenticity, but really and truly, I think it's just show up as how you want to show up. Show what you want to show. You can actually become the niche if you want to, where you like football, you like cooking, you like fitness, and you just so happen to make house music. You can incorporate all those stuff, and you eventually, it might take time, but you start to attract those kind of people too, and your snowball can start moving.
So it's sort of like choose what is like the least point of friction, what feels normal to you, and then just put that into place and just, trial, keep on going until, you've got something that's moving and that snowball's rolling.
That's how that's how I would say it. I know a lot of people will be like, no, but you need a strategy and you should be doing this and doing that. But I really just think about
I totally agree with you.
first, and then you can iterate and change and do things. There's no set rule, but
there's nothing to strategize if you haven't put anything out there either yet, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
Sort of like you put out a plan and be like, right, I'm going to do this video, this, and then you're like, wait, let's think of the logistics, right? That's probably shot with that kind of camera. He's living in this kind of city where there's these kind of, like, there's so many nuances. You just see a piece of content, you're like, banging, then you do that, but then it's like, wait a minute, can I actually do all these things? You've got a job, you've got this. So I totally agree, like actually just starting, right, is the big thing. I want to ask you another thing because you've done everything independently, and you mentioned it briefly. The channel, the brand, the pivot, DJ career, and there's a version of your story where a label could genuinely accelerate what you're building right now. Live shows, releases, your profile. So, would you ever sign to a label, and if so, what would that deal need to look like in order
potentially?
To make sense?
I would never close the door off.
Yeah.
But I do, I'll tell you what, I do like being independent because it allows me to get my momentum going and just continue to do my releases and move the way I want to move, basically. But I'm not closed off to a label. If I really feel like the deal that they're presenting me is a good deal and it makes sense, and I trust the people to build a team around me, I'd consider it. I'm not against it. I feel like labels do have value. Is it 100% necessary? Of course not. You can get it cracking by yourself. But, I'm not going to lie and say doing everything myself is necessarily the most efficient. Sometimes I might slow myself down because I am just one man doing something. Whereas if I had a team, I could move a lot faster, and maybe it could unlock opportunities that I can't unlock myself. But the deal would have to be right, and I would have to trust them.
And what about like the typical sort of route that, it's different in like pop and rock or whatever, but in electronic music, especially, like go defected, then you go here, you go here, you go here. You're doing a release throughout a year with trying to get on all of them, maybe crowning it off with a Circo Loco, or I don't know, whatever, like has that been on your mind? Like maybe not going for one, but you're going to finish, let's say, I don't know, like 10, 20 songs, and then you're going to be like, right, because I've got that distribution, I've got that brand. If I feel like my sound is right currently, like this is how I'd want to play. Or would you be more interested in like that one team take me throughout the year or whatever it is, right, until recoup?
I think now I'd be more interested in having probably a major label deal versus going through.
Why is that?
The typical dance label routes. I feel like it'd probably be more aligned with what I'm trying to do, and
which is less underground, more sort of like more commercial, or
no, I definitely still more underground, but in the sense of, how can I explain this? Releasing on smaller, I don't even want to call them smaller because it makes it seem like I'm saying like they're little fish or something, but it's not that. It's more so that I could release on an artist DJ's label, but I feel like if I released on a major label, it'll probably move the needle a bit more for me at this point. But I'm not opposed to it either. I've got a couple of dream labels in the dance world and the underground world that I'd love to still get on. But the reason why I didn't push for that in the beginning so much, well, I was sending to these labels and some was like, yeah, let's sign it, and then it would fall through, or they'll send me a contract and I wasn't really happy with it. Little things like that, to where I was holding off on releases, and I really wanted to just put music out and get the snowball going. So that's when I was like, okay, I can continue waiting around for these labels, or I'm just going to do this myself. And so that's when I decided, okay, I'll do my own label. I'll put my releases through there, and let's just get some tracks out. It's better having some stuff out than having no motion.
100%. And there's this like thing like where people will say, because nowadays it's really interesting because you have these which were actually more marketing agencies who then became so good at that thing, like perfect examples like Broke Records, right? Or Seven Cult, I think, is another one. Lots of these guys tend to be in America, where they've just got that sort of like UGC or that content sort of thing. Pulse is another one, I believe. And they sort of say like, hey, like, okay, so if we take 10 releases in a year, I'm going to try and do 3, which are sort of more like my TikTok, sort of like, you know, they've got that sort of virality. I'm going to put there. Then in order to not lose culture, because it's so important, like I'm going to choose these 3 maybe smaller ones. And then maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for, use that, pack that up together and try and take that then to lock in a big deal or something like that. That's sort of like what I'm hearing like in the weeds right now of like how people are thinking about it. Like, okay, I'm not doing so well on the organic stuff. Like maybe a song can really pick up there. Maybe I can sort of do the cultural play this way, which will allow me to get on like lineups, festivals, you name it. You know, I'll take a bit of a catch if it, you know, if it's not so much marketing budget or whatever. And with that, at the end of the year, not only will I have that cultural, that sort of virality play, and that's going to give me that leverage to really go and broker like a really sweet deal at a big one.
I mean, that sounds like a great plan. If you could pull that off, that sounds great, to be honest.
Yeah. I also want to ask you about something else, which is, it's also something that I think this guy Charlie Rocket said, which is, he says that he talks about this difference between like trying to boil a lake versus boiling a pot of water. And his point was basically, it's impossible to go wide and get hot everywhere at once. But if you pick like one small community, one neighborhood, and you make it like obscenely well and like obsessively hot there, that heat spreads across, you know, other sectors. However, you know, we live in a place or an environment where, you know, we're pushing to go viral like everywhere, like go wide, reach as many people as fast as possible. And do you think that, you know, the pressure to go wide is actually the thing that is killing most artists' careers before they like even started, because they feel like they have to get shorts and TikTok and Instagram, and they have to appeal to like electronic music in general and not just like, you know, maybe some niche sort of like thing? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say. And I see how that definitely could. If you're trying to appease too many people, you appease no one. But that's also the great thing about social media and about TikTok, is that you can still apply that Charlie Rocket strategy, in the sense that I think when he was talking about it, he was probably mentioning more localized, as in like getting his rapper popping in Atlanta. But with TikTok, what you can do, you can get it popping with just your own niche community. Like, let's say you make, I don't know, something obscure like jazz,
Christian rock jazz.
You can find with your content on TikTok, you can appeal to Christian, what do we call it? Christian jazz rock. Yeah, you can appeal to those people, and you can build your niche small community from there. You build those people up, you got them, then okay, maybe you can do a bit of metal Christian rock, and maybe they'll follow you there too, and you get, you know, your pie starts to grow even more. So I think with social media, yeah, you can just appeal to even the type of music that I make. I guess you could call it euphoria, a mix of hard house, trance. It's still quite niche. It's not massive. It's not as big as deep house, like a Josh Baker or the minimal house kind of scene. It's still very niche, but posting online, even though maybe you're not getting the massive views, you're not going viral, you're still making an impact, which is more important.
And that's like your, is that the place where you're gonna stay? Is that your thing?
That's what I enjoy making. I love making euphoric music. That's kind of my sound. But who knows? In 10 years' time, maybe that sound evolves to euphoric Christian rock or something. Who knows? But yeah, that's what I'd say is my sound.
I want to ask another question about in general, like audiences, and it ties back to you very well, and also in an interesting way, maybe also my co-founder, best mate Nico, which is you've built up an audience, right, big on YouTube, and now you've created another thing where you're also building up an audience, which the two of them, like if you take like your typical viewer of your YouTube channel and like your typical ICP, if we were to put it in like business talk, and then your typical ICP from like your audience right now, like how are you navigating that transition? Like if I am somebody, and let's make it more practical, right? Let's actually say a viewer has made rap music or has made a certain genre and now wants to move into something else.
Yeah.
What advice are you giving? What can you talk about there? And how do you understand like how audiences work across different platforms and what motivates
Yeah.
them to stay?
So what I would say in terms of the audience stuff, for me personally, some people continue to follow my journey. Those are the people that I guess you could call more core fan base, that were more interested in, yeah, the OGs for sure, that were probably more interested in the journey rather than just the music and just the tutorials. And a small percentage of them followed, but I understood not many would, because there's no crossover between drill and techno music. If you like one, you might not like the other. And in order to navigate that, I think this is a very individual thing. It's going to be different for everyone. But for me personally, the way how I had to navigate that was just getting my head around, okay, you're going to start again. You got to be okay with that. You got to get your head around that, basically. Starting from again, building your audience up again, and just being patient and it taking time.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you set yourself like hard rules? Like, I will not ever make a drill video. Like,
No, never like that. Nah,
okay.
it's not that deep. But
Yeah.
if I'm being like super honest with you, for me personally, I felt like I had to build within myself a deep like confidence and self-belief system, and knowing that everything is going to work out, everything's going to be fine. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to just follow my gut and do what I want to do. Because it's very easy to, like I said before, see all the value from the outside and see the outside and let that kind of define who you are. And that can start changing your, maybe you had your foot on the outside trying to do house music. Let's say you're a pop singer and you was doing pop all your life, but you want to switch into doing house music. And like you got one foot in, your manager's telling you, yeah, you got to keep doing pop music because it's making the money, blah, 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 blah. And now you're hesitant and you're not fully committed, and it's a conflict. I think when you're ready, like you're good within, you can jump into the next thing. You like it'll work out.
And do you think because you seem very confident and very sort of like practical and knowing, do you think that comes from the fact that you actually were able to prove to yourself that you were able to have major success, and it's kind of like you're just going to do it again. It's something different, but you're just doing it again and you know that you can do it either way because you've done it before.
In some ways, maybe so, but at the same time, it's also, I mean, there's no guarantees, right? So it's also getting comfortable with not being able to know, but knowing. This is sounding like so conflicting, and I'm sorry if this is confusing, but it's like knowing what you're not even able to see, only what you're able to see in your mind, and knowing, okay, the vision that I have in my mind, I can make that happen. Having that confidence, even if the world is showing you, nah, it's not working, nah, it's not working, nah, the music is shit, nah, they're not rating you. Having the confidence to just be unshakable and stand still and know like, okay, maybe today it's not working, but tomorrow it could work. And then showing up tomorrow and it's still not working and being like, okay, but it's not working, but being good with or without it and still keep going and still keep moving.
I mean, arguably, like from a macro point of view, like maybe it was even like a really good decision, because I would even say, you know, when you made that transition it was like the start when like that sort of house hype was really starting. And I would say that I'm not sure if we're peak or if we're just after peak, but like maybe this summer 2026 is going to be like, you know, I mean, like everyone's an Ibiza, like everyone's a headliner, everyone's this. But you could make an argument that maybe because that it was a growing industry and potentially drill was more of like I'm not saying like it's going down, but they have, you know, music is phases, right? There's sometimes shit's in vogue and sometimes not. It's like fashion, you know, Gap, I feel like it comes back every 10 years, like, and then it's not cool. And then like the same thing with Abercrombie and Hollister. Maybe, you know, you hit the right mark at the right time for reasons which were genuine to you, but, you know, maybe play out to be successful, you know, in just on the YouTuber side of things, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's a funny thing that, and again, and I go back to Charlie Rocket, which was, you know, he found something that surprised me, which was that some of his artists, or lots of his artists, you know, 2 Chainz, Young Dolph, I think Travis Porter's another one, each and every one of them, like where a single started sort of like break through and like get really, really big, was around that sort of number 62, right?
Yeah.
And so his whole argument is, it's not about time, it's about reps. And I can actually speak to this because, you know, we used to run an agency for like 2 years, and then we transitioned into the software, and we see all like the numbers. Like I honestly think that we are sitting on the most amount of data in terms of like how to actually like make a release break at what point when, and it really coincides. Like if you're starting, unless, right, and that's not going to stick, you have like some banging TikTok virality out of the blue. But it's really like you have to build up that sort of artillery. And that is something that is so hard for artists, especially in today's day and age, and like the attention economy, and you're scrolling, you see a billionaire, next one, you see someone with 10 million streams, next one, you see all these things, right? But it really is, at the end of the day, like it compounds. And it's so interesting that sort of number 62, I always had a lesser number, but this podcast was a bit of a while ago. Do you see, I mean, you now have how many songs out? Like 10 or something, I think, on Spotify?
Less than 10, maybe
Less than
around
10.
like 10 maximum, but I can't remember, but it would be around 10 or less than 10.
Yeah, it makes you think like, got to do putting them reps.
If it's 662, that's something actually that I'm going to keep in the back of my mind to check back on and see what happens.
Let's make a bit of a reminder here. Let's check in at the point where you are releasing in your 60s. Let's see where you're at. Clip this.
Yeah, that'd be sick to see if it actually.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways, because people will say to us like, okay, cool, how can I fast track that, right? Like, how can I get more songs out? Because like the value is in the single, right? Like that's the way that we always think about it, is like, okay, if you want to really like get more tracks out, like do single EP, which is sort of like a photo dump, is what I sort of make an equivalent to. Like you sort of have maybe one main thing which you're driving your ads towards, or you're driving your sort of main focus towards, and then you have 2 or 3 tracks which are just sort of like, yeah, they're good, but you're not sort of like, they're not single worthy. And, you know, thereby you can, rather than just getting like 10 songs a year, you can maybe get like 20, right? Or maybe even more if you play that card the right way. Will also allow you to do lots of other things. For example, like the more songs you have, which is, you know, this is a good tip. Like, I'm not sure if you have your own artist playlist, right? Like your own curated playlists. But if you have like anywhere between 10, like anytime you've hit more than 10 songs, that's really when you can start creating playlists on Spotify, different moods, right? So let's say, I don't know, you know, you can go as far as thinking about it like a dropshipper, like e-commerce person away, where you're sort of thinking about certain mood states that are trending right now: sleep, focus, these kind of things, right? You can have like a playlist to match that, like the trance focus playlist, the trance whatever playlist, right? And then you can put like your catalog, the 10 songs, in like the first fold, where you sort of have, you know, an ocean track, a big track, an Ocean track, a big track of another guy, and run like really low spend ads towards that, for example, or you have on each of your YouTube videos, you maybe have a link to those, because what's happening there is that people are just like, ticking onto those, and it's a really like low cost way to drive a lot of traction, and it does wonders for your algorithm, because you can instruct Spotify what kind of artists, because the other artists that you choose are really important, because the chances, it's like hitting a dog on the nose. Like if somebody listens to an Ocean track and then to, let's say, a Fred Again track, for lack of a better example, so many times at some point a proportion of that is going to be shown to Fred Again's audience, right?
Yeah.
And so that's just also like one of those things where if you have more reps, if you have more quantity, you're able to use that for far more. You can then use that playlist to do playlist trades. You can do all these other stuff, right?
Yeah. I'm curious though, because with that 62 rule and all the data that you have, would you, if someone came to you, I want to get to that 62 number as soon as possible. So let's say they said, okay, I want to release a 1 a week cadence,
No.
52 in a
Terrible.
year. You
No.
don't think that's a good idea? You think
No,
it should be
terrible idea.
patient, steady?
Yes, because
One thing we learnt working with artists is that growth is hard to do alone. And that's why intelligence is far more than just the software. It comes with a community of thousands of artists, resources, and real guidance from people who are actually doing this day to day. You see, you learn how promotion works, you see what other artists are doing, you can ask questions, collaborate, and grow faster. And that's why it feels less like a tool and more like a shared system of artists building side by side. And if that sounds like something you've been missing, you can try Intelligent now and get 20% off for life. Check it out with the link in our description.
the way you have to think about it is the way that the Spotify algorithm works is that release radar kicks in a month later, right? And that's really where it can once again, like properly push. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to release a track. We believe in this front-loaded attention spike, because we believe that the algorithm operates in a way, and we have the data to prove it, which is like if you make it hot in the beginning stages, it's going to go up and then it's going to tail down, obviously, like every track will. But the point to which it will tail down, because you've gotten up so far, it's never going to match it like if you were to go like steady, right? And so then hopefully what you have done is you've led to enough traction that a month later when release radar comes out, the algorithmic push is just beyond knowing. Now, if you cut out a track, so if you don't let that run for 4 to 6 weeks, right, you are basically saying, all right, focus on this track. And then it just completely abolishes the potential of that previous song. And it's so incredibly sort of like vivid, where let's say, for example, you have this happened to Nico. He had a track he released that, I forgot what it was called. It was doing fantastically well, really, really well. It was like it reminded him of his one like really big song, which has like 80 million streams, In the Dark. But he had planned this EP, right? And this was like the single to really promote that EP. And he was thinking, great, like now I'm gonna get more of a boost because it's gonna be in the EP, and I'm gonna take that and it's gonna cover all the traction. So he has that single, EP. The single is also in the EP. So you would think that, okay, there's not going to be too much. All the traction went to the EP then, and no longer to the number one song, but to the other songs. And it just completely cut off that sort of like growth. So you've got to really be careful about it, because if you don't give it enough breathing time, you never will see what the growth is that can happen. I always say just do 5 weeks. Like just put that in your head, do 5 weeks, and that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So
Yeah.
with that kind of knowledge, everyone should really just be having that patience to let that 62 come when it comes,
Absolutely.
instead of like trying to rush that process.
100%. If you've got that itch to release more, I do think there is this argument to be made that everyone is releasing their most polished tracks all the time, and it's like a gladiator fight, right, of like the most polished, the most amazing, the most marketing tracks, right? Like all of these tracks are just like product launches. It's like a kind of like a supreme marketing thing. Like everyone's just got like insane marketing going on at the moment, and it's so hard to compete. If you have that itch to release, like I think SoundCloud is obviously a great thing, but I do think there is also space, if there's any like music tech people listening, like for that sort of like unpolished, like you want to be listening to music just like in a certain genre, very focused, maybe with an algorithm behind it as well, but it's not like this sort of like huge thing where it's more like a testing ground where you can actually put your stuff there and see how it does and make it like the problem is that SoundCloud just isn't that cool, right? That's what Spotify was able to do. I love SoundCloud, but like just the association to it is not like as cool. Like my younger brother, who's like 16, he'd never use SoundCloud. I don't think he even knows what it is, right? And so if you can create like maybe like a gray area where people are able to put those tracks in, right, to upload it there, I think that would be great. It's like the equivalent of a trial reel. Do you know what I mean? But you just need you need enough.
This is kind of like what Charlie Rocket was describing with the mixtape days. You could drop a mixtape and that would be so little pressure. It's just free music for the fans, and whatever happens. But in turn, that they'd actually make them a lot of money.
Yeah, and you would know with far greater confidence, because all the time DJs and producers are like, well, this has been working, but fuck, I love making this. Can I make that? Or do I have to start a new artist project for that? Like, how will my people respond and resonate? And I think there is really an opportunity for a platform to exist, to come out, to be, you know, a place where you can have that. Because me, for example, I don't really listen to Spotify that much anymore. I listen to live sets all the time. And the problem is that there are not that many live sets. I've pretty much listened to almost everything. Like there are some on SoundCloud as well, but people won't release them for obvious reasons, right? You want to buy a ticket. You're not supposed to just like fucking stream the whole thing. But it makes me think as well, like I would just love to have like a lot more live sets. Like if you were, for example, at your place right now, you know, you're making music with friends that are, you're like, well, this was pretty good. Let me upload it, right? But you don't want to upload that to YouTube because you didn't film it correctly. Like, where is that photo dump? Where is that sort of place where we can just drop shit?
What you're saying. I think honestly, for underground electronic music, SoundCloud is still that place.
It is, but I would also love a way to like be able to follow artists and then hear what they're listening to, and like maybe they're liking certain things and I get that on my feed and it's not polished. Like it doesn't have to be mixed and mastered great. Like it can be loud on my right AirPod than on my left one. I don't care. I just want to hear the new stuff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Maybe anyway, that's the next step for Intelligent, man. If you want to take a big project.
we'll have to see. Okay, let's get back to the questions that I wanted to ask you. I went off on a bit of a racket there. I wanted to know, like, for you, right? And this is actually going on that point, which is, you know, and I talked about this with Henry Fong on my previous podcast, where he sort of said, throwing your event is like doing an MBA in sort of music. You learn promotion, you do production, you learn how to read a room, you learn what actually makes people show up, you're selling tickets, all these things. And, you know, he pointed out some of the biggest names that have done this. You know, Josh Baker with You and Me, you know, he started off 11 years ago. I believe the business, like You and Me, almost went into administration a couple of times. Now it's at Amnesia. Michael Beebe with Pausa and Dennis Cruz with Solid Grooves. I'm not sure if they were the ones who started that, but I believe so. You know, they built their careers by throwing their parties first. You're in Thailand, you're in Madrid, you've got a YouTube audience, you're also, you know, you've got London ties, you've got production skills. Where is your event? Why haven't you done it?
So I actually have done just one event before.
You have?
One time, yeah.
Tell me about it.
It went okay. The concept was really just to keep it very casual and almost more of like a day party kind of vibe, more than a rave or something like that. And the concept was to throw a day party basically in a pizzeria and hand out free pizza. And
I did see this. I think. Was this no, I saw one with English breakfast, I think. Is that the same one?
That was a set on Let Him Cook Radio. So that's like an individual platform for DJs. But yeah, I did the pizza one. And I think it went okay. I'm definitely not opposed to it. I would love to throw something a bit more in line with what I'm doing. Maybe more like an actual rave. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you have all the things that it takes, because it also does like everything that you would need, right? Like it's a content moment, it's a culture moment, it's a headline moment. You have traction. You can own whatever location that is. If you make it location flexible, you can go into multiple places. You get to bring in artists that way. For me, that's like, it's interesting because the demand for live
has never been greater. At the same time, there's never
Yeah.
been like, I think every day there's 10 nightclubs closing in the UK, right? That's like the statistic right now. But like there's this growth of like the independent kind of, you know, ratchet sort of like parties. That's what people are sort of fiending for. And when I look at your stuff, like, you've proven business, you've proven content, you've proven music, like you've got it all, and it would make so much sense in my opinion to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely,
Not stepping on your
it's
toes.
something. No, it's definitely something that I'd definitely want to do in the future again. It's a different hat to wear for sure. It was,
Yeah. But maybe even a content series around that as well, you know?
yeah, it's not simple. I mean, it's
No.
simple, but it's not like as straightforward as I thought it was going to be when I decided to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I
No,
mean?
of course. No, of course,
But
of
did
course.
it,
You know,
did you guys did some
yeah,
events? How did
man.
that go?
Yeah. So it was mad because so Nico, right? Like he has a problem which most artists don't have, which is he figured out the royalties, the streaming, and that whole thing. So he was making great money, but he's basically on his couch. But as a DJ, as an artist, you need the in-person culture. You need that to
Yeah.
live beyond social media, right? And that also brings a whole nother layer, right? That sort of whole process of like selling tickets and all that. And so, you know, he had been burnt before by labels, and so he thought to himself, you know, stuff that. But we did need gigs. And so he would get a lot of like offers, but it would be 12-hour flights. And if you were then taking into account taxes, that it wasn't that much, where he could be like, if I were to focus 12 hours on my business or releasing another track, I'd probably make the same, if not more, right? So we were like, well, what it does every pretty cool DJ or cool artist have? They have like their own thing, right? They have something in the thing, like a cultural play. And so we thought to ourselves, okay, we'll do something like this. And the idea of Mosaic was essentially sort of anywhere between like an Anthony Bourdain meeting kind of like a Project X, which is sort of like, we wanted to go around the world because we understood that house music doesn't just live in like our bubble, right? It doesn't just live in like Ibiza and Berlin and whatever. It's everywhere, and everywhere has its own story, and we wanted to sort of like identify that story. The Anthony Bourdain story or angle comes in there because we documented the whole thing, like kind of like a Netflix documentary. We haven't done anything with it yet because it's so much work, but we chose like places we wanted to go to for holiday destinations as friends, and we'd work on a business on the side, but we're just like, let's make it a content moment as well and throw an event. So for example, in Brazil, in Rio, we couldn't find a location. So I think Philip had the idea, let's rent a boat and do like a boat party. And so we called up like these boats, and one guy gave us an offer, which is fair enough. And then we oversold the tickets. We sold like, I think like 300 tickets. And on the day, and we checked this with this guy before, and on the day the guy says, only 80 can come on board. And we're like, we had to send back like 200 people. It's like madness. So that's one thing. Then, for example, in Costa Rica, right, we were like in the depths of the fucking jungle, and weather just started pouring, raining. And then we're in London on a rooftop somewhere, and the owner agrees to everything. But then on the day, we actually have to make the speakers really quiet. So to your point, there are so many things that go into this whole thing, and you have to collaborate. You have to make sure you have content. You have this. So we did that for a year. We threw like 9 events in that year across America, South America, Europe, Africa. It was amazing. I would say, however, that concept is probably better utilized in 2 ways. A, if we had like our YouTube game and our socials game dialed, that would have been an amazing sort of like series, kind of like these UK YouTubers will do, like, I traveled around the world on 1 penny, right? And they figure it out like that. You could have done something like that. Or if you're like an established brand like a Circo Loco and you're taking it around the world. For us, neither were we there, nor were we there. So we kind of just, it was like a holiday and trying to throw like a party in between. And if I could go back, I would say, let's choose and one place, be that London or Barcelona or both, and try build up a core following there, and then do this thing a year later or 2 years later more properly organized. Because we've been sitting on content for over a year now, which is amazing, but we're not doing anything with it. And so it's a shame. You got to get it out, but man, editing and all that is hard, and it costs a lot. And then I'm so like vivid on how I want the story to be told, and I don't trust someone to be able to edit it. Then I have so many other things to do, blah 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 blah. But
yeah, I
truth be told,
but that definitely sounds like a good concept for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's mosaic's like we're trying to trying to figure out the picture of art through multiple pictures, right? Like I guess that's sort of like the way to sort of think about it. All right, I want to ask you one last question because we're closing up on sort of like the hour. Is, like the whole conversation there was something consistent. You keep sort of like making choices that you could seem irrational from the outside, but they turn out to be exactly right. Once again, going back to Charlie Rocket, but he says that most successful people in the world are delusional. Would you put yourself in that category?
I think in the traditional sense, yes, but I don't even like to call it delusion, because typically what people say when they say delusion, right, they're trying to say, I'm gonna believe in this thing even though it doesn't exist and it's not there yet. And I don't like that definition, because you're already acknowledging that it doesn't exist, but it exists already in your head. So I don't like to say I'm delusional in that sense, but I'm delusional in the sense that I disassociate from the illusion. Whatever's in front of me, if it's not necessarily what I don't want it to be yet, I don't let that affect me. It's not changing who I am necessarily, or what I'm trying to do. It's not putting me off. It's not putting me down. It's just like, okay, it is what it is. I love this quote actually by Kanye West, where he says something like, it's not that I'm not right. It's that I'm not right now. And it's like, yeah, right now it might look crazy and it might look like it's not exactly how you want it, whatever. But can you be patient? Can you just get your head down and keep working and keep taking action and keep moving towards it, with the end goal in the back of your mind of like, that's gonna happen, but I just need to keep working. I think sometimes as well, like, it's very easy to keep, especially as musicians, I see it a lot, sometimes even myself, we work, then we put our head up like, where is it? Has it happened yet? You're looking for on the outside, like, where's it happened? It's like, no, keep your head down, keep going, and before you know it, things will start moving, things will start coming full circle without you even necessarily, it just feels effortless. It doesn't even feel like you're trying. It just happens because you're doing the work, you're moving in flow, everything is clicking.
So then,
you know what I'm trying
the
to say?
destination, of course, then the destination, you're basically saying, the destination is the process. But what I would then throw back to you is, if you are going to be like, work, look up, work, now keep your head down, can you ever enjoy it? Or is it just a constant pursuit and you should find
think you can.
that pursuit?
I think you can. So people always say, right, enjoy the journey. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. The corny quote, but the more I'm maturing, the more I'm actually realizing, oh, I'm seeing sense in this now. You can actually enjoy this. Don't get me wrong, there are parts that maybe you don't enjoy in that moment, or it does seem a bit like hard work. I know a common thing is people don't really like being on social media. In particular, musicians, for example, promoting and doing their thing. Oh, I don't want to do a TikTok. It's long. I just want to make the music, and that's fine. But personally, just speaking for myself, I do love it all. I like making the content. I like doing the music. There are some days where I wake up and I'm making the music and I spent 4 hours and I'm thinking, damn, this is so dead. But part of me thinks like, but the 5th hour, I might just make something that I'm going to love. Maybe I don't make it. It is what it is. But I just got to remember, like, every day I get to make music. Do you know what I mean? This was a dream. This is something that I wanted from when I started. And now I try to remind myself as much as possible, bro, you could be working in the mines. You could be working as a builder. That life is hard. This is easy. Like, you get to do this. This is somewhat of a privilege, man. Just enjoy it as much as possible. I try and keep in that frame of mind. I'm not gonna lie, like, I try to keep positive as much as possible, even when things are shit or look shit on the surface. I try and stay positive and keep that frame of mind, because that's, even this kind of positive energy is what's going to keep me going.
Yeah,
you know what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah, and this is extremely unprofessional, but I keep seeing on like reels sometimes I see like this thing that comes up more like trying to make. I don't make music myself, right? But like trying to make music when sober, not in a happy relationship. Da 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 da. Like, I'm not sure about your relationship status or whatever, but like, is there some truth to that? Like, if you are essentially sort of like really good, sort of like the stand-up
Yeah,
comedian, right? Like if a stand-up comedian it has gotten rich, like they'll be like, "Oh man, you know, like fuck you." Like,
yeah.
is there some truth to
That,
that?
that that is hilarious. Yeah, no, there is some truth to that. You know what I'll think about as well? You know, back in the 80s and the 70s and stuff like that, musicians were just they were drinking, they were taking drugs, they were living these crazy lives, and then coming back and just transmuting that into the most incredible music that is still timeless to this day, right? And nowadays, it's like culture has shifted where it's all about wellness and fitness and being in the right mind state and stuff like that. I think it can work both ways. I think for everyone it's kind of different. Again, it's kind of just finding what works for yourself and tapping into that to make your art. Basically, for me personally, I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I am a bit woo woo and my head's a bit in the clouds and whatnot. But that's kind of what works for me, and that's what keeps me feeling good to keep continuing to make music.
Yeah. Now tell me about what's coming. I want to hear what's the next year look like. What does success look like? If I were to give you a ring in a year from today, what do you want to be telling me that has happened that you have done?
Music is continuing to grow. I
Yeah.
know it's not always about the numbers, but the numbers on Spotify, for example, are an indication that progression is happening, right? So if my numbers, my monthly listeners are growing on Spotify, they're at 100,000, 200,000 monthly listeners. I think that's a win. Playing bigger shows. Um, Honestly, man, I'm really excited for what's about to come. I know we was talking about labels earlier. I got something actually coming on a label, which is going to be a
Yeah.
nice label too.
Nice.
And
Expanding the team,
got
like manager, agent, like that whole play. Is that
Yeah,
are you gonna
definitely.
try?
I'm open to it if like I said, man, if the right opportunity is there and the trust is there and I vibe, the energy is good. I'm definitely open to having a manager, getting an agent on board. Um, got some shows coming up which I'm really excited about.
Tell me about those.
Yeah,
Where
man.
are they?
So I'm gonna do my last one here, and then I just confirmed one in Ireland. That's
Where
gonna
do you
come in
play
summertime.
when you're in Bangkok?
So this next one is gonna be at a club called Blacklight, which is
Blacklight. Okay.
yeah, it's like a smaller
No
undergroundish kind of
Baccarat
club here.
in
Yeah,
Bangkok.
Baccarat is the very popular one.
Yeah, yeah. I saw a guy called, do you know Jaden Thompson? He's
I
a UK
don't.
DJ. He's from Manchester. He's good. He played there when I was there. Okay, cool. And so that's sort of like your scene there. Are you building up like an Asia sort of like base?
I gotta be honest with you, not really. I haven't really been doing too much of the whole boots on the ground stuff here because I also knew that I was gonna move
Right.
eventually. So actually, I'm gonna be moving. Damn, I'm actually looking at the date. Less than 6 weeks is the plan.
Wow. And
So
you're
it's kind
moving
of
full
soon.
time then, like out of Thailand, full time Madrid.
Yeah. So the plan is to be back in Europe because the kind of music that I make is more.
Yeah.
There's more of a scene in Europe, places like Amsterdam, Germany, Ireland, Scotland, UK, even in Australia. And I want to be something that I've figured out for myself because I've done living in London, living in a big city where everything is happening, being able to collaborate every single day of the week, to being in Bangkok and kind of being almost in solidarity and doing my own thing just online, hammering online. And I love, now that I've done both, I think for me, I like being more closer to where the action is happening. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be moving
I
back to
can,
Europe and
mate,
being
I
more in
can
the scene.
totally understand that. I was living in London and then in New York for 2 years, and then
Oh
I was like,
man,
I'm
you
going to do
live
the
in New
Bali.
York and you go anywhere else,
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah. Back there in May, but I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to do the Bali thing. So I
Yeah,
flew to Bali, and I was in Thailand as well before then for 3 weeks, and then I stayed like a month in Bali, and it was like great to begin with. Like I was like fit, and I was like doing this and
yeah,
that. I was like, yeah, bro, I'm going to bed early. And at some point, like day 11, you're like, yeah, what the fuck is this? And I was like,
yeah,
take me
man.
back to the action. And I booked my flight. I just like dipped because I'm the same. I think there's something where there is the
Yeah,
beauty. Like I love the duality where you have the option to leave. You can F off and be in solidarity because you sometimes just can't see people. You just have to put your head down and just get shit done. But there's so much that comes, and I'm sure for you as well, especially as an artist, where a conversation, a sound, a story, an interaction, a drive home, a whatever, that's what shapes, like that's what sparks inspiration. And if you're in Bali drinking matcha and doing yoga and whatever the hell, there's not a lot of that, right? Like it's all very sort of
yeah. It feels like a different kind of, I guess you can say, energy in some ways. Bangkok
yeah.
has been personally amazing for me. I feel like I've been able to come here, do my own thing, really tap into figuring out what my sound is and what my next move is, I guess you can say. But I've done that now, and now it's time for the next phase. And yeah, being in a bigger city, it is inspiring, but also, for opportunities, for being around people, being able to just, oh, there's a show happening in Scotland, I can just fly there. It's not long.
Do you think you're going to go back to
2 hours.
London, or you're not sure where?
Nah, the plan is Spain, Madrid.
Madrid? Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, mate. Well, thank you so much. I'll link everything below, but I don't think anyone will need your link. They will know. But I very much appreciate you taking the time. It was
Yeah, I
really,
appreciate you having me on, man. I've been tapping into the podcast and it's been great.